Guest who you see on your screen. This is Ben Rowswell. He's a former Canadian ambassador to Venezuela and a consultant with Catalyze 4. Ben, thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Happy to be here.
Let me talk to you first about your reaction to waking up to the news that essentially Venezuela no longer has a president, and that president is on his way to the United States.
Yeah. I have to say, after years and years of seeing the damage that Nicolás Maduro did to his country and to the people of his country, the terrible repression, the crimes against humanity that he committed, there is certainly a tremendous sense of relief that he's gone and the hope for a better Venezuela that begins. But a terrible, terrible way to bring about this change.
It sounds like it was a very intense military operation based on the press conference we took live here. It was an operation carried out by land, sea, air, according to the president. And the president of the United States also made it very clear that they're taking over. They're going to run the country. Now, you say this may come as a relief for many in Venezuela. Is this the way they want to see that relief?
So it's the end of one dictator, but it is not the beginning of democracy. Not until the elected leader of Venezuela, who is Edmundo González, who now lives in Madrid, is able to take the reins of power. In signaling that the United States does not agree with the legitimately elected government, it suggests to me that democracy is not even on their radar, let alone not an objective of this. In the same outrageous press conference that President Trump just gave, he also talked about how they're going to seize oil. I mean, this is really the law of the jungle.
Talk to me about that word outrageous. Why do you say that?
We talk about the norms of the international system and how important they are to any country, including the large countries, but also especially to countries like Canada. We rely on there being some limits on how military force is used in international affairs. We have no sympathy for Nicolás Maduro, but the fact that the United States not only will enter the sovereign territory of another country and decapitate its government without any international legal cover, but also openly flaunting international law, sends a signal to all of us that every president and every prime minister is potentially a target of U.S. military action. There doesn't seem to be any constraints on what the Trump administration would consider in enforcing its will through, especially in this part of the world, in the hemisphere. This is a country that's acting not like a democracy, not like an ally, not like a partner of Canada, but like an imperial power entitled to take whatever action it wants.
So with that in mind, and considering we are part of this hemisphere, close to the United States, both geographically, of course, but politically, economically, we have not heard from our Prime Minister. We've heard from Minister of Foreign Affairs. We've heard from the official opposition. What should we hear from our federal government on this matter?
So Minister Hernandez said two things. First of all, Nicolás Maduro is a very bad man. Agreed. And all parties should respect international law. Read, the United States should respect international law. There is a path out of today's situation that could lead to a democratic transition and could maintain the peace, but that requires the United States approving the return of the elected president. I'm hoping that that is going to happen soon, that President Trump was speaking off the cuff somehow. Maybe I'm a little too hopeful, but that would be the manner in which Venezuela returns to a democracy. There also needs to be some kind of negotiation. The U.S. has removed President Maduro, but they're not in charge on the ground. They won't be in charge until they deploy a large invasion force of 100,000 plus soldiers. And so there needs to be some kind of negotiation between the people that still hold the guns in the streets of Caracas and the legitimate president who lives in Madrid. That could be the subject of a coordinated effort by all the democracies of the Americas, working with the United States to say, we've been working on Venezuela for a long time. We've been really concerned about there being peace and democracy and human rights in that country. Allow us to participate in the negotiation between the rump forces of Maduro and the democratically elected president, González. If the United States would agree to that kind of mediation role, then I think we could get out of this situation with peace and with democracy.
You brought up a number of issues here. One is the word invasion, which I'm sure many people will bristle at, but this is possibly, this is what we might be looking at, especially when the president is saying, we are running the show now. Yeah. They've not been elected to do so. So you talk about the democratically elected president who's not in the country, the vice president of the country who has seemingly been sworn in to lead for the time being. And then you have Machado, who is widely regarded, at least in the West, as a possible alternative. But in all of this, where are ordinary Venezuelans? How did this country go from being arguably the wealthiest in Latin America, with that tremendous oil reserves, so progressive, so forward-moving, to where it is right now?
That's a very long story, and it has a lot to do with overdependence on oil, on any one product that has such a wildly fluctuating price in international markets is always a bad idea. Most countries that depend entirely or heavily on oil tend to be dictatorships. It's a bad product to base your economy on if you want to be a democracy. But in the more recent past, what I would say is that after the disastrous decisions that the Maduro government took in the management of their difficult economic situation, it's the economic policies of the Maduro government that have devastated the lives of Venezuelans and created the largest mass movement of humans in our hemisphere in its history. And so they are quite widely in support of a democratic transition. There are very, very few Venezuelans that have any time of day for Maduro. He's really hated within his country and within the international diaspora of Venezuelans. They do very strongly support Edmundo Gonzalez. They voted in record numbers for him. And please note that Maria Corina Machado is an ally of Gonzalez. She told Venezuelans, if you like me, vote for Gonzalez. And her statement this morning is that it's Gonzalez that should be the president, not her. On this note, it's even more alarming that President Trump, having authorized this military intervention to remove a government, is not showing support for the democratically elected president of the country. And that, I think, should lead us to have great suspicion for the true intentions of the United States.
Okay. It's the early hours. Let's see how things develop. The president said they're going to run the show and consult with Venezuelans how things move forward. Let us hope for the best for the people of Venezuela. In the meantime, former Ambassador Ben Rowswell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Once again, here is a look at Caracas this hour. The U.S., as we've been reporting all day, has launched airstrikes. Those took place overnight. And just last hour, we brought you the update from the U.S. president that Nicolás Maduro and his wife have been arrested and are making their way to the United States to face criminal charges. We're going to bring you more reaction from South America coming up right here on CBC News Network.